Victoria. Thank you very much again as I wait for the notification. Perfect. Boom. And we are live. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to a very special edition of Off the Record on the People's Podcast this evening. We have an incredible guest with us, one who's going to give us some amazing information as well as inspiration, and that is none other than Sister Victoria. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Walaikum salam, dear brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the People's Podcast. This means a lot to myself, my family, and the viewing audience. Okay, so Sister Victoria, I have known you, or we've known each other since I've come to Atlanta. You've been a great help and always have a positive spirit. But I never got the chance to ask you when you first heard the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Well, thank you, brother. Thank you again for having me. This is definitely not my comfort zone, but because it's you and you asked, and I love you and your family. So here I am. I heard the teachings back in 2005, and I call it my love story.
Okay.
It was beautiful because my youngest brother, was the vessel that Allah used for me to get to know the teachings. He used to speak to us, mention, however, he was a little bit of on the hardcore side because he was listening to the teachings since he was 14, and he's my youngest brother. And he was listening with, coming up with college, not registered, but he was always been very much so into the teachings, and until today, very knowledgeable brother. And I always go to him, if I have questions and things of that nature. But he was the one that introduced us, and he used to speak to my daughters, my two daughters, about it. And my daughters actually took interest first, and they had asked me if I would be upset if they decided that they wanted to follow Islam versus the tradition that I came up under, which was Catholicism. And I informed them, I said that you can't be what I am, and I thank Allah for that, that He blessed me with that spirit, that not to force them or any other thing like that. And of course, after that, came the question as to if I would go to the mosque with them. And the first time that I went, it was beautiful because Brother Minister Michael in number 25 in Newark, New Jersey, was teaching the value of a woman. And I had never heard the value of a woman before. So of course, they sat me in the front, being a new guest, and I cried. And when they, at the end, when they asked, if we would come in and accept these teachings to learn more, I stood up, and I thank Allah that He blessed me with the ear to have heard and to have inspired me and put it in my heart to accept the teachings, because in accepting the teachings is accepting myself, as praise be to Allah. Yeah.
Excellent. And I'm grateful that your brother did that. My uncle, Minister Jamil, sends the greetings, family. Brother David Muhammad says, Assalamu alaikum. He's so happy this is Victoria sharing her testimony. Thank you all very much for who continue to like, share, and subscribe to the People's Podcast. I can't wait to put this on YouTube. All right, now, Sister Victoria, my next question for you is, how did your family and friends outside of your younger brother, how did they feel about you accepting the teachings of you and your daughters?
Yes, sir. Well, let's start with my best friend. At that time, he didn't like it. He knew me all through high school. We were very good friends. We've been through some hard times together, and he actually told me that he couldn't be my friend anymore because I was dressing different, and he was used to seeing me dress sexy, if you will, how when we're in the world, we're not fully covered, and so he thought of me as more of that I should show it off. I should flaunt what God blessed me with. And of course, in the teachings, we don't do that. We don't promote that. We cover ourselves to give ourselves value as women. And we're not the women of men, we're the women of God, so it hurt my soul. And I still love him because, he was with me through some hard, difficult times, during high school years and so forth. And, but it is what it is, he couldn't accept me, accepting the teachings. And so we parted ways. And then as far as for my family, it was a bit of a trial, unfortunately, I lost my family shortly, not too long after I accepted my oldest sister, one who was in the Army, and the eldest used to send some pretty intense emails, if you will. The one in the Army would, they rationalized it, or they saw it as if it was like in Islam, like the terrorists, when they behead people and things of that nature, and without knowing, so they were judging. And of course, it was difficult, but it didn't kill my spirit. It was something that I longed for since my childhood. At the age of 7, I already knew there was something that I didn't want to follow the tradition of that my parents followed in Catholicism. And it wasn't until I was 38 that, I remember laying down and crying because I had tried so many different faiths. I went with my other siblings who went into Christianity, Baptist, Seventh-day Adventist, and I've tried them. And they were great. They were good, because it was making a change in their lives and so forth. But I still felt empty. And when I heard Islam, that was it for me. That's exactly what I had been searching for. I can't pinpoint one particular thing, but it was just the beauty of the message that I had heard for the first time, which was the value of a woman. And me as a woman, never been taught, that I had value. And that was it, So yes, for myself, and I'm sure many others, when we come into these teachings, we have to pay a price, if you will, but of losing some loved ones or those, but we gain more, for myself. I gained more because I gained the knowledge of myself, the knowledge of God. And what better way? Because when we come to that knowledge for myself, coming to the understanding of who I am, was beautiful, because Allah doesn't put more on us than we can bear. And so all those trials, eventually, we'll see the value, or we'll come to the understanding of why that had to take place, if we're patient. And it isn't easy, because I didn't grow up with much family. The only family I really had was my parents, my brothers and my sisters in this country. And, when they parted, Allah blessed me with ease. He didn't, although I missed them, and, when you celebrate Mother's Day and those things, it comes, to mind. I never stopped praying for them and thanking God for them. But it was needed, Allah had to do that, had to make that happen in order for me to come to this understanding and be where I am today, and just being more in love with Islam and our teachings in particular. Yes, sir. Yes.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful. Thank everyone for watching. My uncle, Minister Jamil, says Islam comes after all else fails. And he says, Sis Victoria, where did you grow up?
I actually grew up. I was born in South America, in Ecuador, and I came to the United States. There, I was to the United States at the age of 7. 7 is my favorite number. And, you know, this is where I actually grew up, but I never felt, I don't know, I can't tell you, like, I didn't gravitate to the culture of, if you will, from, you know, the United States, like even the eating habits and things of that nature, because my mother was one that cooked every day, you know, and we ate healthy. So I didn't gravitate to that, you know, culture of eating hot dogs or mac and cheese and things of that nature. It was difficult for me, you know, not knowing the language, you know, not speaking English, and coming to a whole new world where I was actually going to 4th grade over there when I was 7, and they brought me down here to the 2nd grade because I didn't speak the language. And it was tough, it was rough, but here I am, you know, we overcome everything. Yes, sir. God's help.
Yes, ma'am. Well, how you being bilingual, how has that assisted you within the nation and outside the nation, as far as trying to explain the teachings to people who may not be as fluent in Spanish as I am? You know what I'm saying? So how does that work?
Yes, sir. In the nation, you know, unfortunately, when I was in New Jersey, it was you come into more in contact with our people. As far as acceptance, you know, from our people, it wasn't easy because I remember I was in Kmart, and they saw me in my white garment and they called me a traitor, you know, because I was, I guess, you know, I had my white garment, my headpiece, and so I'm not. They realize I'm not Catholic. Some people have mistaken me for nun, things of that, you know, like that. But when I've had the opportunity to sit down and speak to our people, you know, we come to the realization that we are all in the same path, really, you know, looking for that to be more pleasing to God, you know, that come to that oneness with God. So we find that we have more in common than we do differences, you know. Yes, sir.
Amazing. And the reason I made reference to my being able to speak Spanish is because I've had Spanish at all the classes I've taken in college. Spanish has been the hardest one. And I reached out to Sister Victoria, and she was so encouraging with me with Spanish, because woo, yes, ma'am. All right, all right. My sister Naima sends the greetings as well. My next question for you, Sister Victoria, is your children.
Yes.
I know both of your daughters, and now you have grandchildren. What has been a grandmother? How has that impacted you?
Oh my gosh, brother. I always often tell my daughters that they had those babies for me, you know. That is the second opportunity for me to actually enjoy, you know, seeing children grow in a different manner. You know, when you're a parent and then you become a single parent, you have to be, you're consumed with work. You know, I had to work 2 jobs. And you don't get to enjoy the growth, you know, the different stages. And so being a grandmother, I can't even explain it. And I remember I used to have this conversations with your mom. She would, you know, love, she wanted to be a grandma. So, you know, and I used to share with her the joy of being a grandma, just enjoying my, you know, my grandchildren, being able to, and particularly being in the nation, you know, to be able to plant seeds in them of how they have to grow up and to protect, you know, the woman, and just do right, you know, follow good guidance. And it's been beautiful because I've been really blessed to see my grandchildren, and I, you know, share the different stages with them of growth and development, and we're very close, you know, we're very close with my grandchildren. Yeah.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Well, when I met you, you were used to work and tell me about how you worked with a lot of clients and things of that nature. What was your experience like in the work field, and what advice would you give to other people who balancing work and family life?
As far as in the work field, I think you're speaking of when I used to work with professional athletes. It was a beautiful experience because I think in every aspect of life, once you have the teachings, you can apply to them, and you see the teachings for what they are, the truth, in them. The athletes, I had some prominent athletes. I had 35 clients, and they were very well to do. However, they didn't know the power that they have. They didn't know, as far as when they come to from nothing, because most of them came from poverty, and then they come to so much wealth and not know what to actually do with that wealth, how to manage it. I did have certain clients that were I guess they were very educated in the sense that they knew better than to take control of their financial assets for themselves, to be involved, versus giving the all your power, your financial means to someone else, to a company, to manage it without actually knowing how to manage. So being financially educated is important for someone who comes into wealth, because many of them actually became poor, lost most of it because, and it was bad management from their, parents, because our people, they love their mothers naturally, so, their fathers, and then they give them what we call power of attorney. And so they go, they can ask requests for money, take money as they desire, without really realizing that most of these careers that are sports and play, they're short-lived, and that this is their livelihood, that they have to, that their children, if they get hurt, they're going to need financial to be financially set so that they can take care of themselves when they get older, or if should they get hurt, their families and so forth. And unfortunately, they don't think like that. They see the money coming in, and it just, as fast as it's coming in, it's going out. Yeah. And but like I said, there were those that also that did take control, and they managed themselves, and they questioned when money was leaving their accounts and things. So they were very involved because they were financially educated as far as how to manage their money, their wealth. And so that's very important. That's something that I would say to in any career that you have. It's to be involved and think for the future, not just for the present.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. And my sister Miriam says, peace, family. Thank you, Sister Miriam. And thank everyone who continues to like, share, subscribe to the People's Podcast. Okay, excellent. Now, Sister Victoria, you spoke earlier. I've had the honor of eating some of your food before. You cook an amazing food. What do you do for people, for women who may be out there who don't have like recipes passed down to them? What advice would you give to them on cooking?
Well, as far as us, I'm, like I said, from South America, and so it's easy for me to accept, like our teaching how to eat to live, because we eat healthy, we eat fresh, vegetables, fresh fruit, and not using so much, like spices and things of that nature. I use a lot of garlic and onions. So, food can taste good. Food can taste good with very simple items like as garlic and onions and things of that nature. So I like the flavors of what we call South America, that culture, our food. And I mean, it's trial and error, because I've cooked some things, as growing up, when my mom used to force us, because we all had our turns, we had weekly chores. So I had to cook, and I came up cooking from a very young age. I started cooking at the age of 7, and so there are many times that it didn't taste good. So a lot of trial and error.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Okay, great. Well, Sis Victoria, we have a few more questions for you, but before we continue, I have a 60-second commercial break for all of the sponsors of the People's Podcast this season. I want to thank everyone who has continued to show love and continue to sponsor and make donations. We're grateful for all of the sponsors, the anonymous donations. We're grateful for all of you all, especially the people on YouTube who we don't get to see live, but we definitely feel your spirit and your support. We thank you very much. And this month, I have some amazing guests coming to continue to come on, like Sister Victoria. Thank you very much. If you all like to be a sponsor or donor, please cash out the People's Podcast. My brother Rashad, Street Premier Media Production. He has a 4K camera and a drone. He does television and film editing. Thank you very much, my brother Rashad with Street Premier Media Production. My sister Miriam, ABC I Love Me, children's book and coloring book, both of which are available on Amazon. Please go out and get those. My sister Naima, Stay on Point Dance Academy, LLC. She teaches ballet virtually to young girls all across the country. And right here in studio in Atlanta, Georgia, we love our tiny dancers. Sister Rashida Rafat, if you're working on a book, she provides copy editing, project management, content development, media relations, and consulting. Please reach out to Rod Communications and Sister Rashida Rafat. Thank you very much, Sister Rashida. Please continue to support Asiatic Minds Online. It is a virtual school that is launching this upcoming month in September. It's an amazing school, teaches young kings and queens. Please sign in by asiaticminds.com and let Sister Sherry know that you heard it from the People's Podcast. Thank you very much. Our brother minister, Student Minister Robert L. Muhammad out of Austin, Texas, conflict mediation, squashing the beef. He does a great job in the community right there in Austin, Texas. His wife, Sister Fudia Muhammad, Children of the Most High, giving birth to gods and the science of child rearing. I've interviewed both of them, and she does an amazing job. Please support her book, Children of the Most High. Thank you very much. We're coming right back to Sister Victoria. Elevated Places with Sister Melville Muhammad out of Houston, Texas, where they make architects and engineers. They just do so much out of that school, out of Houston, Texas. Shout out to Sister Melville Muhammad and the amazing work that her and the staff are doing out of Houston, Texas. Brother Kenneth, bow tie maker extraordinaire. He'll ship bow ties to you anywhere in the country. He keeps you fresh. I can't wait till I get to start wearing some suits again so I can reach out to Brother Kenneth for some bow ties. Dr. Henry M. Carter right here in Atlanta, Georgia. King Henry's Turkey Legs. Brother Rashad Muhammad, COVID-19 disinfecting cleaning services out of Chicago. My father's book, A Soldier in the Movement of Christ, AbdulSharif.com. And last but not least, my two books, Cleopatra, which is a children's book, and No Father, No Excuse, both of which are available on Amazon. Thank you all very much for your sponsorships and donations. Right back to you, Sister Victoria. So, Sister Victoria, in your time in the nation and out of the nation, has there ever been a time where you were faced with fear? And if so, how did you overcome that fear?
Many times, dear brother, many times. One in particular that comes into mind, in the nation, I remember when I was in North Carolina, I did not have a car, so I used to take the bus. But I always wore my uniform, I was in my headpiece, and I would go to the bus stop at 5 o'clock. And I remember being in the bus stop, and this man, it was this shadow that was just coming, from nowhere. And it wasn't winter, but he was wearing a coat, a heavy coat and a backpack. And he was a big guy. I'm only 5 feet tall. And I just said, I always said my prayers, and I looked up this guy because I knew that they were up there, I would just say, Assalamu alaikum. And then being at the bus stop, when I saw that man come, there was a bit of a hill, if you will, because there was an apartment complex on the back. And so I, moved myself towards the back, and the man started to try to go around me. And so I immediately just turned right, facing him face to face. And he starts coming towards me with a peace sign. And yeah, he was, I think he was trying to do something, trying to go from back me. But when I, went to him, and of course, my heart was like beating, but I said, Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and just faced him. And he saw that there was no fear in me, and then he started to ask, praise be to Allah, because it was all Allah, he started to ask me, he really wanted me to call him a devil, and he starts saying, I was told that I should not use the word inshallah. I said, why not? Inshallah simply means if it is God's will. I said, if it is God's will that you cross the street safely, you will. If it is not, you won't, And he kept on pressing me. I said, have you ever looked at the definition of a devil? And he's, I think, and I told him, I stopped him and I said, not what you think. I said, the definition, the true definition of it. And he was just like, grumbling his teeth, and and finally the bus came at that time, and I got on the bus, and that was it. But I remember the minister is always saying, that he removes fear from you when you go in his name, and he did. You know what I mean? Your heart is beating. I'm a woman, but I thank Allah. I thank Allah so much for our beloved minister, and his sacrifice. The teachings that he brings to us, because they do, fear is one of the biggest enemies that we have, is, fear of anything, the only one that we should actually fear is God. He's the only one who's capable of, allowing us to go forth, move forth or not, and stopping us. So that was definitely one with, that I remember.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Amazing. Yes, ma'am. What has been your greatest joy in life?
Well, aside from being, a mother and being so blessed, I have, two amazing girls. Allah has blessed me so much, and they're very good to me. They're very, very good to me. They love me, and they show it, through their actions, the way that they have behaved, and the women that they have turned out to be, the mothers that they are, the wives that they are. So and that's that's such a blessing that I can't, I'd be remiss if and sound so ungrateful if I don't mention that, because God blessed me to have them. And then on top of that, to be blessed as a grandmother, of
Yes,
four beautiful babies is the greatest joy, because like I said, I get to enjoy them at a different level, in a different manner, and they are just so beautiful. But to see the pure hearts, when we pray, they always say, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, and then you hear their genuinity, when they're in their prayers, what they're asking for God to remove, all evil, and to bless the children, and that's beautiful. But having the opportunity for a rebirth, if you will, of coming into the nation and actually being blessed to know who I am, or continuing in that study, because I still don't know everything, and I certainly don't know much, I'm a baby at this. And but just the beauty to be on the course of a student, and of coming into the nation, into these teachings, is one of the greatest gifts from God, and to have heard, because we're a family of 8, and I am the only one that is registered, but my youngest brother always said to me that everyone has a different path. Some are shorter, some are longer, some take a curvy path, but eventually, if it's Allah's will, we'll all be in that same path, so yes, sir, that's my joy.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. What type of music do you listen to, Sister Victoria?
Oh, I listen to classical. I love, classical music, Beethoven. I have the Minister's Collection I was blessed by a sister in the nation with that gift. And I listened to that, and it's just so beautiful. I heard his concerto. I was, blessed to listen to that. And it's amazing. So I came up, always listening to what you call Spanish music, salsa, merengue, um, bachata, and I love that music. I still love it, but I kind of had to stay away from it. When I came into the teachings, of course, we don't go to the clubs anymore and things like that. So, not to tempt myself, I guess, from the very beginning, I just removed myself. I listen to it when I clean,
Yes, ma'am.
that upbeat, that little bit of energy. But I love my the music that I came up with, which is salsa, cumbia, merengue, and the beats. They're just beautiful, one of a kind.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And are there any misconceptions about South America that we should know about? People who live in America before, as far as wanting to visit, is what we see on TV true, or is it different? Like put us
No,
on.
sir. There's a difference. There's a difference. There's many misconceptions. I think that once we start to travel internationally, we can see for ourselves, because we're taught that we should not be surface dwellers or based on hearsay. We should do our own research. And even the news, when you're in South America, like I had the opportunity to be in Spain, and I remember the news was totally different, from what you say here, what you would traditionally hear, in Fox News and things of that nature. It's not, it's not like what you call a third world country where you go and see everything is poverty. You see beautiful architecture, structures. They're so different. It's so, well built. And I would encourage everyone, if we have the opportunity to travel internationally, to do so, because those misconceptions or things that you hear are not necessarily true. There are some, of course, there is poverty, but the healthcare, for instance, over there is so much greater. Like I know that in South America, in Ecuador particularly right now, there are so many Americans going there that are retiring there because of the economy. When they retire, Social Security expands a little further, and they're able to live a comfortable life. The healthcare, like I said, benefits are better. But you have the good and the bad, because in here, of course, you have great opportunities. But I would just encourage everyone to take those trips if you can. Yes, sir.
Amazing. Yes, ma'am. Okay, well, now that you said that, I like television, so I'm thinking that everything's like Narcos, and it's like, they're gonna, try to kidnap me or something when I go over there. Okay, but I'm gonna try to travel, step outside of my comfort zone. My next question for you is, if you had a chance to meet God face to face, what would you ask him?
Oh Lord, I've always wondered, I guess, and I've always, in my prayers, I don't fully understand why Allah chose me out of 8. What it was that he saw in me that, or that he put in me, to accept this teachings. Because I desire that same feeling for everyone, particularly for in my case, for my sisters, my siblings, my brothers, to have that inner peace, no matter what's going on in your life. You may have, some little levels of stress or whatnot, but you have peace within in your heart. And it's this peace that I can't even explain. And I desire that for them. So I would ask him, what was it that he saw in me that made me, that chose me? Because I often think about it, is like I wasn't here, and that I heard the teachings. He brought me from South America, Yes, sir. He brought me from South America to come and experience, so many different things, go through some things, but to ultimately be here and to accept myself.
Beautiful. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am. And if he could ask you one question, what question do you think that he would ask you?
Ooh. I can't even think. Oh my God. I don't know, brother. I've never thought of that. Like I never, if you could ask me a question, I can't even fathom that question.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, well, we have one more question for you. And I want to thank everyone. I can't wait to put this on YouTube. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe to the People's Podcast. I just want to stress this again. Sis Victoria has always had an amazing spirit. Every time she comes to the mosque, you can feel her energy. Wherever she's a part of, she used to be in the morning time feeding the people who, quote, are homeless, end quote, and the people, and she did it with such a great spirit, always upbeat, always caring and kind to the believers and to just the people in general. So I thank you very much for your spirit, Sis Victoria. I thank you for your sacrifice on behalf of myself, my family, and the viewing audience, and the sacrifice of your family. We thank, shout out to your daughters, your grandchildren, and your son-in-laws. Shout out to them as well. What would you like your legacy to be, Sis Victoria?
Oh my goodness, brother. Just I want everyone to remember kindness. Like I love, being there with the transitions. I don't like being what you would call seen. I'm a behind the scenes person, and I did that before I came into the nation. I was doing those things because it's like, I don't know. I just think kindness, goes so much further and it doesn't take much, you know what I mean? Just a smile or just a kind word, So smile, just that. This is Victoria likes to smile.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, ma'am. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the People's Podcast. I want to thank everyone for watching. This is Joshua Leonard Muhammad signing off of the People's Podcast. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am.
Thank you. Walaikum salam, dear brother.
Excellent job, Sis Victoria. Thank you for watching.
Please give my love to the family, brother.
Yes, ma'am. Please do the same.